It was the year 2000, and as this new millennium came to fruition, people around the world were all wondering what was next for Nintendo. And Nintendo promptly answered this question at Space World, whatever that is. And among the titles shown on their brand new console was a game featuring Luigi, which is a concept that's never been explored by a respectable company before. And this exact game ended up being the main launch title for the system, right next to Tarzan Untamed. Yep. But at the time, this release was actually widely panned due to Mario not being in the spotlight. I have no proof of this, and it's just a thing I've heard other people say, but I'm sure it's true. You know, despite all the game review outlets at that time giving good review scores, it also being the best-selling game of November that year, beating out Mario 64 in terms of sales in its opening week, and the only criticism it really receiving being pretty justified. But no, this is an underrated classic. I can't believe it got hated on like it did. But this game is fondly remembered by lots of people now, including me. It's one that I only finished about a year and a half ago, but I really enjoyed it regardless. Its deceptively simple ghost-catching gameplay had me hooked, and its fairly short length made it pretty fun to speedrun. So it was only a matter of time before Nintendo made a sequel. And then Dark Moon came out. But then, in September of 2018, we got a Nintendo Direct, showing us the reveal of Luigi's Mansion 3. And I genuinely thought it was a 3DS game. This looked pitiful visually when it was first shown off, and people were pretty vocal about it. Though luckily, they actually improved upon this aspect, and in the next trailer, this game looked like it was made for the Switch. Congrats! So anyway, Luigi's Mansion finally ended up being released on Halloween of 2019. And after 15 hours of gameplay, I came out of the game... well, let's start with the plot. So the biggest worry for many about this game is how it would progress along with the story. More specifically, will we be pulled from the mansion frequently or not? This was something that happened a few times in the original game, where Egad would pull us back to his hut so he could explain something, but it usually only happened after a boss, and there were a small number of those, so it felt more natural than anything. Though having to make the treks all the way up the mansion just to get back to the place you left were definitely the lowest points of the game. But this previously mentioned apprehension really came from Dark Moon, where you would get pulled out every 10 minutes, which is just, yeah, you can assume people's feelings on that one. Though, I am very happy to say that you get pulled out of the action a total of 0 times in this game. Sure, there are parts where you have to go back to his lab, but those have a more special context in which you get to decide when you go there, instead of just being taken. This game integrates its story perfectly into the gameplay, to where it doesn't feel like a distraction, it feels natural. And this starts all the way at the beginning of the game, when you first arrive at the hotel. I just gotta say, I love the way this starts out. It's a really great use of foreshadowing. And of course, everyone already went into this game knowing that the hotel's gonna be haunted, there's ghosts, and Luigi has to save Mario. But instead of just lazily getting to that, they give some time to build up the atmosphere leading up to the moment of revelation. Like the way you can notice that some of the disguised ghosts have no feet, or the map showing you what's to come, or the way the hotel changes completely upon waking up. These set up the most essential things in the game, slowly leading the player into this eventual realization as opposed to it already being present. Like really, they could have just had Luigi go into the hotel, get greeted by ghosts, and meet up with Egad again. But they went with something that took a bit more creativity, and that should be recognized. It's always good to stray from older concepts, especially if they're expected. And also, this chase with King Boo has such great spectacle. I really love how it looks. Speaking of looks, this game is just brimming with personality. All the animations appear insanely smooth, and everything's textured so well to the point where you just want to touch it. I guess if I had any complaints in the design department, it'd be some of the ghosts. They look kind of PS2-y, if that makes any sense. I'm pretty sure it's just the way they're kind of shiny, which was probably intentional, but I much prefer the more see-through look they had in the original to combat this. But regardless, this still looks great. It's crazy how far they came from this original trailer. Though visuals are only the entree here, the part that I cared most about is the gameplay itself and how they would combine ghost catching with exploration. And, well, there's certainly both of them. I'm going to start with exploration, because this is quite different from the original. In the original, exploration didn't really go beyond finding a mouse hole or getting an extra key to another room, but this game brings it to a whole other level. I think, at its heart, Luigi's Mansion 3 is a puzzle exploration game, one in which it expects you to interact with everything because you genuinely want to, not because it's required. And while the mere idea of this genre might be off-putting to those who love the original, I just gotta come out and say that it works perfectly. Looking into every nook and cranny, dealing with intriguing puzzles, finally finding out which combination of things gets you to the gold. This is what the game excels at, and it's also what I enjoy doing most. There are so many secrets in this game, and my reviews tend to have spoilers, but showing you the solutions to a lot of these would be a disservice to this aspect. It's really something you gotta figure out for yourself if you want to get full enjoyment out of it. And I know, that's not usual for the series, but I think it was the perfect direction to bring it. You're supposed to be exploring this place, right? You might as well be able to really explore it. And the new tools are given by EGAD make this even better. Seriously, Luigi, good ass idea. And the puzzles this idea leads to are great. That's not to mention your other new abilities, like this plunger you can use to pull and smash objects, or this dark light that can get a lot of use if you have a keen eye, or even this burst move that can open certain entrances. These new choices allow for so many creative puzzles where you have to combine these essential moves in a way that sees fit. And in order to allow itself to have these brain teasers that are integrated into the environment, this game would need a good environment. Which it has, in terms of ideas. Each floor is a different theme, basically, so you have the expected hotel ones, like everyone's rooms or the main entrance, but then you have a lot of oddballs, like the medieval theme floor, and like a pyramid. Yeah, and I already know that hardcore loyalists of the original will not like this. To them, Luigi's Mansion is about exploring a realistic location with coherent design. And I could see why this would be immersion breaking, it makes no sense. But to me, I could get past that. I don't play these games for realism, trust me. If you want to go goofy with it, go for it. It could lead to more creative events. Like the pyramid floor had a bunch of these neat trials, like this one where you gotta use the sand filling up the room to destroy these turrets before they make the roof cave in and crush them, or this one where you gotta find blocks in the sand and put them in the wall before you die of poisoning. Which is a great idea, but then you realize this game's for babies. And yeah, Nintendo equals baby games, whatever, but it's kind of insulting how easy this journey was. Like, at the beginning of the game, EGAD gives you this bone that'll give you 1 free revive when you eventually die, and I literally had that bone until the end. Anyone with a functioning brain could get through this easily. You'd have to be really young to struggle with this. And the main reason for that is because heart pieces are everywhere. If you happen to be on lower than 99 health and do literally anything, you will get a heart piece. Smash a table? Heart piece. Suck up some popcorn? Heart piece. Nothing? Heart piece. This previously mentioned room where it's filling up with poison and the whole challenge is based around losing health? Heart piece. And sure, you got easy heart pieces during the original game too, but they were less frequent, and they sure didn't show up during bosses like they love to do in this game. Yeah, bosses lose any sort of difficulty because of this fact. Just let them attack, and heart piece. 2 even if you're at 39 health. On that topic though, yeah, fully fledged bosses exist in this game, with attack patterns and all that. And I gotta say, they're definitely the highlights. Some are really inventive, like the one with the Piano Man or the Kaiju. Again, they are not difficult, but they're enjoyable to fight, unlike everything else in this game. Yep, here we go, the ghost catching. In the original, the way you would catch ghosts was, as previously stated, deceptively simple. It appeared as though you just had to hold the opposite direction as the ghost you were catching. Not much to it. But there was so much more to it. It was all about working with the ghost's method of escape. You had to account for their movement, not the other way around, which means you'd be flicking the joystick in a way that's able to give slack, fight against them, work with their movements, etc. And you'd do that because if you went too hard as they fought, then they'd break free. But if you also gave them too much room, they would also break free. So you'd have to find this perfect harmony, that especially for the portrait ghosts was hard to achieve. But if done correctly, you could one-shot any of them, giving the player true reward by mastering the technique. You'd think that they would bring this system to Luigi's Mansion 3, as it was the most important part of the original game. Yeah, funny how that turned out. There is no strategy involved here. When you start to suck the ghost up, you hold the opposite direction. No slack system, no fighting system, no nothing. You literally just hold. And then once they're lower than 80 health, you mash A a few times and then they're dead. Rinse and repeat, same goes for the bosses. This is, with no doubt, the most disappointing aspect of this game, and the thing I think ruined it. And before I continue, I just gotta say that no, dumbing down the ghost catching isn't necessarily a bad thing. If the game continued to have fun floors and unique bosses, I could look past it and still have an enjoyable time. But man, they really dropped the ball in terms of the levels. After like the 5th floor, they basically just gave up. Seriously, it's really weird when you think about it. They started off being these exploration heavy places, and then progressed to having 4 rooms. What happened here? Okay, for those who haven't played this yet and don't really know what I'm talking about, I'll give you a rundown of all these floors. Basement 1. It's the intro basically, so it's not that in-depth, but it still has some neat things going for it. The Grand Lobby. It's a room used for story purposes at the beginning, it doesn't matter. The Kitchen. Genuinely pretty good with a bunch of rooms and secrets. Hotel Shops. One that I liked when I played it, but looking back, it's just 4 rooms, so I guess the trend came early. The Great Stage. Kinda short, but still fun to explore, so whatever. The Suites. Basically for story purposes, but surprisingly in-depth. This one's great. The Castle. This one's also great. Good puzzles and useful location. Plant Floor. Kind of annoying with its upward structure, but it was fine. Paranormal Productions. This is where the game makes a turn for the worse. It has a stupid mechanic that takes too long and is basically just 4 rooms. Hotel Museum. 2 rooms. Yeah! Basement 2. I like the floating mechanic and it had good puzzles. Pretty good. The Pyramid. I like the trials, but there's not much else here. Pretty okay. Magic Floor. Impossible to navigate and makes me want to punch a baby. Pirate Floor. 3 rooms this time, basically just glorified boss floor. What's even the point? The Gym. Has rooms, they aren't fun to explore. Dance Hall. 2 rooms, who cares? Final Floor. Basically just 4 rooms, wow. For those keeping track at home, that's 4 rooms I liked, 3 I kind of enjoyed, 2 that were basically nothing, and 8 whole floors that I thought sucked. If they kept up with the solid design they had in the first quarter, then I would be able to recommend this game regardless of the dumbed down capturing mechanics. But because most of the floors are just nothing, the only leg the adventure has to stand on is that exact mechanic, which flounders on its own. But that's not all, this in hand ruins further exploration as well. Near the beginning, when I wanted to 100% this game, I kept wondering why I had no desire to go back through these maps despite exploration being my favorite part. And then it hit me. The exploration isn't fun because the base gameplay isn't fun. As I said before, catching these ghosts is a total bore, and considering how they're all over the place upon returning to these areas, it's no wonder I didn't want to go back. If this game had actual engaging ghost catching like it did in its debut, I would be singing a completely different tune. But the simple fact is that it doesn't, and what it has in its place is just tedious and boring, and not something I want to go through again. And that's not even to mention how horrible the boos are. In the original, you tapped on a thing when your radar was red, and then you'd be able to skillfully suck up the boo. Here, you have to go through like 10 rooms to even be able to catch them. It's so annoying and unnecessary. I get that this was in an attempt to streamline the process, but I would much rather have 10 simple encounters than one long and annoying one. That's not to mention that this radar has a mind of its own. It's supposed to rumble next to the room where there's a boo, but it just does it when it feels like. Sometimes it rumbles when it's not near anything. It makes no sense. Is this a bug? Oh yeah, and that's another thing. This game, glitches, it got them. Most of them tend to be visual and can be shrugged off, but I got a game-breaking one within the first hour where this dog got stuck in my ass. I wish I was kidding. I really do. Also, don't reset. You don't want to see that. And that meant replaying the first 30 minutes of the game, which is fine, whatever, it wasn't intentional. But then they intentionally make you play through 3 floors in the stupid cat mission, where he just runs about and sometimes goes down floors and just leads you along in a section that only serves to pad out game time because they're lacking levels near the end. Oh my god! That's not even to mention the power-up we spent so much time backtracking for near the end. That's literally only used once. Once! What's the deal with that? Whew. Luigi's Mansion 3 is the antithesis of Luigi's Mansion 1. The first game had a very low level of exploration, and everything was linear, but the ghost catching gameplay made up for it. In this game, the ghost catching is incredibly simple, but the exploration tries to make up for it. It really depends on how much you find the good element to make up for the bad, and in this case, it didn't. This game is so close to being good, but while trying to innovate, it lost sight of what made the original so fun in the first place, removing so many layers of depth. If you just want a neat little exploration game to play on the go, then sure, go for it. This game has its moments, but I'd say there are much better games out there that are much more worth the price. And the worst thing is, I really liked this game near the beginning. The exploration did make up for it, but they arrested that part of the game and nothing was left for me to like. And that's just kind of sad, isn't it?